melt is when I'm ocean waves.
Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Chris Jollay from NOVAHOOPS.com. Amazing website, started in 2016. Chris and his team bring us coverage of all the Northern Virginia basketball games, not just the best players, but all the players. And really has filled in a void of a complete lack of local sports coverage because of the local papers don't do it anymore. Anyway, Chris, thanks for doing this.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Like I just told you, I love your podcast. I love talking basketball, so I'm glad we can do this.
Well, good. Well, this will be fun. Look, I know you coach some basketball yourself. Why don't you tell us how you got started in basketball, even where you're from, and then how you started Nova Hoops.
Yeah, sure. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally. I moved to Richmond with my family. Came up to school at George Mason. And I didn't do anything, basketball related after graduation from Mason until a friend of mine basically, he was coaching AAU girls basketball with the Vogues about 20 years ago or so. And he asked me because he knew I was a gym rat. And, I spent my time even after college just going to the playgrounds and going everywhere and playing basketball. He said, "Hey, you want to help me coach this?" And I mean, I really liked it. I mean, especially coaching girls. For about 6 or 7, 8 years, I coached at some high schools, at Marshall High School, at Robinson High School, coached mostly girls, although I did coach some guys. And I liked it. And then I took some time off to focus on my career. Came back to Robinson, and I think it was 2015, coached the ninth grade boys team under Coach Brian Nelson at the time. Realized I kind of didn't know anything anymore. I was kind of obsolete. I'm very old school. I like running offense through the post and stuff like that. And everybody's running like a 5-out motion offense. So I'm like, I was also a journalist at George Mason. I ran their student newspaper, their sports department. So I was like, and like you touched on, local journalism used to be just outstanding around here. And there are still some remnants of that. But you won't see the Washington Post cover a lot of these games. I can't blame them, but, their coverage area. So I said after the ninth grade season was over, which was actually a pretty good season. I mean, I say I didn't know anything. I think I got it done, but I really was behind the game a step. I said, you know what? I'm going to start covering this basketball, and then it just blew up. And, that's about the long and short of it.
So when you started it, did you look around the country, or there other websites covering local sports like this, or how did you get your model to begin Nova Hoops?
To be honest, embarrassingly, I didn't really look around. I just did it. I just said, I've always been a kid. Since I've been a kid, I've been one of those kids that used to get the sports page and just read box scores and standings. And I just built it off that, just off the assumption that, adults too, they still love, especially people our age, they love box scores, they love standings, they love to know what's going on in the schedule instead of having to look at 100 different websites. So I just did it, man. And I'll tell you though, if you go back to 2016, you could see that there wasn't too good of a master plan there. I was kind of just winging it a little bit. But you can see how I've improved over the years. I figured out photography. I knew nothing about photography. I was always a writer. So, it was trial and error, definitely.
Have you been approached about starting the same thing in other places? Like, for example, as you know, we have Facebook groups for former players and different sports. And I've been approached about, starting the same thing in other places, but it's a very labor intensive thing. And I have an advantage here because I played, coach, officiated here, live here. Can I start one of these in Mississippi, and is there value in it? But what about you? Have you thought about, doing this in other jurisdictions, or you're kind of like me, this is where you are, you enjoy it here?
Yeah, I mean, well, my main focus is here, obviously. I've gotten some emails about, hey, you want to come down to Richmond and do this? Although Richmond has some good coverage down there too. The Richmond Times-Dispatch does a great job down there. 804 Varsity, some of that stuff. Right, before COVID hit, I definitely had a mind on expansion. I think I'm going to next year as well when the regions realign and the districts realign again. I want to at least get into Winchester, expand Northern Virginia out west a little bit. As far as doing it nationwide, man, maybe when I retire, I'm a government contractor in my other job. So I can see, maybe 15, 20 years from now, me just retiring and if I have the energy left. But you're right, it is very labor intensive. Right now I'm putting in, boys and girls, 70 schedules each to the website. So I would definitely have to get a little more technologically savvy and find some shortcuts if I were to expand. But it's definitely on the table, and there definitely will be some of that, maybe next year.
Well, how about other sports? Like I know, for example, Prince William's got a great Facebook group where they really,
Yeah.
they cover each other. Plus, there's great journalists out there as well. Fairfax doesn't really have that for football because I have a Facebook group for former football players, and that's kind of morphed a little bit into that kind of exchange of information, but nowhere near enough. It's not what you do. Have you thought about football?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to. I'd have to learn a little bit, but I'm a football fan as well. One of the reasons I haven't gotten enough work done on the website yet is because every Sunday, I'm a red zone guy. I watch football all day.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's a great idea. I know baseball is covered pretty well
cover well.
in the
Yeah.
area. I believe it's, gosh, I think it's Jody Rutherford has a great website for that locally. But you're right, football. I mean, there's a gap there. So you know,
There definitely is a gap. Well, do you do most of your coverage? Do you do the online, the NHFS stream, or do you go to most of these games yourself, or do you have a staff that helps you go to these games with you?
well, I've been very blessed. I do have a bunch of people helping me. A lot of good writers. One texted me last night, Paul Bergeron, who used to write for the Washington Post, and I forget one of the local papers. I forget which one
Mhm.
as well. Fantastic writers. So I'm very lucky to have people like that. I got a guy named Max Nagel who graduated from South Lakes that loves to cover girls hoops, which is wonderful. And I got another guy. So we like to go to the games. Now, NFHS, that was a godsend, especially for us when we're trying to get the scores in updated the next day, because I can go to that now. And, if I don't know a score, I can kind of, as long as I can see the scoreboard. But that's that talking about filling a need, that's really filled the need too. That's why I'm sure you love that.
Oh yeah, it's great. I was like, so my son played soccer for Yorktown, and
Mm.
his grandmother is 82, and she used to always come to his games when he was younger. But once that feed went up there, she never went to another game. So his junior and senior year, she didn't come to one game anymore. That was enough. So yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
but that's one, and that's one of the comments I get in the game stories. Um, from what? You hear me there?
yeah. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. So I
Yeah.
thought I lost it there.
No.
Um, some of the game stories I get from grandmothers, I love it. They'll write a comment there, and it's really wonderful that especially the out of towners can see their grandkids. It's a wonderful thing, really.
It is great. Well, look, let's get to right to the season, the 22-23 season. Offhand, I know there was some big news at Hayfield. Usually, we're talking about losing players to private schools. They got 3 or 4 new players. There's excitement. What are some of the news stories from the offseason? And I know also with Coach Lewis' situation at Edison. What are some of the news stories from the offseason that are notable?
Well, you touched on a couple of them. I mean, Hayfield, people were asking me 3 months ago, they're like, well, is Hayfield going to repeat? And I was like, I don't know. Braylon Wheeler and those guys were big losses and all that. Well, they filled they filled that need with at least 3 transfers that I know of. Donovan Bass Briscoe, Khalil Williams from the Potomac School, who's a phenomenal player. And I believe John Awoke, who used to play at Annandale, he's fantastic. I mean, that's the number one story. It's Hayfield is a strong favorite to repeat, but there are a lot of contenders on the boys' side. On the girls' side, same thing. Madison, finally lost that senior class, that's given them what, 3 straight state championships, co-share with Edison for one of them. That's a big story as well. Is this the year finally Madison can't repeat? Those are 2 big stories. You touched on Diane Lewis. I was just so happy to see that she came back for so many different reasons. Number one, there was a girls coaching brain drain basically that occurred over the summer and last spring. Pat Deegan at Fairfax retired. He has over 700 wins. Jody Patrick, who ran the Vogue's AAU program at Flint Hill, she retired. I don't know. These people might get back into it or something. But, and when the whole politics thing happened with Diane Lewis, it was just like, gosh, I hope we really, because she means a lot to the community, obviously, and she's one of the deans of coaching, if you will, in girls basketball. So that brain drain was partially avoided when she remained at Edison. But I got to touch on, just for me, it was a really hard thing to write about. A lot of people, we lost a lot of kids this summer. And I wrote about that on the website. Recently, we just lost Braylon Mead, a kid at Washington Liberty who was killed by, I believe, a drunk driver just a week ago. He was on the basketball team. Kyle Honoré, who was going to enter his freshman year, and Colette Bain at Woodgrove, who was going to be a senior this year. They all died, in the last 2 months. So it's been a hard offseason. That's been a major story, though, and it'll be a story going forward to see if those, programs, how they react to that, because they're all great programs going forward. Major story, but just, it breaks my heart to even talk about it.
Yeah, the worst kind of story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you cover private school, and I really don't as much. I stick to the public school history just because I know it. But what is the culture like the private school as compared to the public? Is it very different? I went to a couple games. Buddy of mine, Gibraltar Coleman, his father and I are good friends. He plays at Flint Hill, so I went to some of those games and saw some really great basketball. How are the public and private schools different culturally in terms of basketball?
Well, it's a lot of programs, smaller programs, private schools, they eat and sleep basketball. If you're there for basketball, you're really there for basketball. A lot of them obviously are good educational institutions as well. The big thing from our standpoint here in Northern Virginia is that shot clock. College coaches are being like, you got to go play, a shot clock. They want to see how you react to that. Obviously, Virginia public school coaches are pushing that pretty hard for obvious reasons. Now, the flip side of that is, places like Hayfield have demonstrated that, with guys going to college, getting D1 scholarships, that you don't have to go to a private school by any means. And you and I know back in the day, public school was very common for people to get D1 scholarships. In the case of Gibraltar, I'm glad you mentioned him. I love his game. I just watched him a couple Saturdays ago. He's got a D1 ride to American, like another local kid, Greg Jones of Hayfield. So it's difficult to say because the private schools vary a lot. But it's, some of these places, you might play other sports at some of the bigger ones, but some of the smaller private schools, man, you're there to eat and sleep and play basketball, it seems like.
Well, maybe because of the Hayfield situation, we'll start to see some kids come back to the public schools because they'll play more. I've seen some of these benches at private schools. There's like 8 kids on there that are 6'4" and above that are great players too. maybe these kids are getting more opportunities at the public school. But how about on the girls' side? I know Paul VI has won a lot of state championships in a row. They got a great team, and I believe Bishop Ireton is your number 2 team. Is the gulf between those teams and like last year's Madison team? Is it a large gulf?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Paul VI girls played Madison last year and won by, I think, 28 to 30 points. Now it was a rushed game during COVID. But it really did show the gap on the girls' side. Girls basketball has gotten a ton deeper in this area. It's great. There's just 10 kids alone, I think, in the last month that have signed to play at D1, D2, D3 schools. But the gap is there. We haven't done our rankings yet. So Bishop Ireton is not number 2.
Okay.
They finished number 2 last year, and
yeah.
To give you a little hint, they may be number 2 again to start this year. We're not sure yet. Our rankings come out on Sunday, by the way. But yeah, there's a gap. I think Bishop Ireton played a pretty good Colgan program last year, and Colgan is a fine school. You know, they do well. They've been a contender in the last 5 years. And Bishop Ireton beat them, I think, something like 105 to 19 or something like that. And Colgan is a good school and a good girls basketball. So the gap on the girls' side is a lot more. And that's not to say the Paul VI boys wouldn't do some damage in the public school, obviously. But on the girls' side, you really do have where the depth of talent is getting better all the time. But, you know, when you have Paul VI up there, who a good example is Paul VI this year got Sadie Shores, I believe, to transfer in, the Woodgrove sophomore that was integral in their state. They went to the Class 5 state finals last year, and she was a point guard. She's going to play at Paul VI this year. So it's, you know, those 2 teams, Paul VI, Bishop Ireton, and maybe O'Connell very shortly again. You know, they do have an advantage. However, some teams like Madison will go and play them. So, and more credit to that. We love the tough schedules. I love public versus private school games.
Yeah. Are the girls who go to private school, are they reclassing like often the boys do?
Yeah, same thing, basically. I would say on the girls' side, there's kind of less private schools that you know, recruit. I would say on the boys' side, it's everywhere.
Right.
On the girls' side, there's a lot of it, but not quite as much as the boys' side. But yeah, they're doing the same thing, really.
Yeah. Well, look, let's start with the teams in the conferences. Why don't we start off with 6C in the Occoquan region? And you touched on Hayfield. They have a very weak, relatively weak district. I think of the 4 of the former Northern Region teams, it's Occoquan and Northern Region. It's probably the weakest, but who knows? Maybe some of the younger players from some of the other teams will rise up. But what do you think about Hayfield? I mean, they've got a great out of conference schedule. Do you see any problems for them this year?
No, not in that district. And like you say, it probably is from top to bottom one of the weaker districts. There's a lot of good programs in there, though, that can, you know, win 1 or 2 games at regionals, maybe. But there's nothing that's any kind of threat to Hayfield. Edison historically has been a little bit of a threat on the boys' side, but no, that's Hayfield's playpen, basically.
Yeah. Well, Edison with the new coach Trey Ford, who I enjoy talking to a lot. They got some size last year, probably the biggest team in the Northern Region, Occoquan region. And they were tough. They were a tough out. I mean, they were not an easy team to beat, but Hayfield, I think, beat them at least 2 or 3 times. Are they going to retool? I think one of those kids, Montano, is going down to Hargrave. So I think he either graduated or he transferred. Are some of those kids coming back this year?
Yeah, they do have some young talent that was there last year, and they have the big kid. You mentioned the size that can knock some people around. I know you're gonna have to. I'm gonna forget names. I forgot his name.
Me too.
Yeah. But you know, he's Edison could be a solid program, and they're excited. I know about Coach Ford being there as well.
Yeah. So on the girls' side, we have Edison and we have Coach Lewis back. They got to the regional, I believe, semis last year. You know, they were very young. I think they had at least 3 or 4 freshmen that started for them. You think this off-season disruption will have any effect on them?
Well, they did lose a couple of those young players. Couple went to Woodbridge down south.
Oh, is that right?
But I mean, they're going to be good. If I got to look at their roster, I haven't seen their final roster. The whole thing with these transfers is until I see final rosters, I know some kid, I know a kid that transferred to a private school this year and then went back to the public school before I could even write about it.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't seen Edison's final roster to see who's on it. But yeah, there's no reason why they shouldn't be a contender.
Yeah.
And I'm talking a regional in the States contender.
Yeah. Were there other teams in that conference last year that gave Edison competition? And who is their main competition?
Yeah, I mean, and in that district, you have several nice programs. Hayfield gave them a nice game or two. That's a good program. Yeah, believe it or not, TJ, both the girls and the boys are dangerous on any given day. They've got some young talent. Falls Church has a young lady named Simone Pendleton who's fantastic. So there is some talent there. It's just, can anyone match the depth of Edison, that comes at you at waves? And no, probably not in that district. But there are some good programs.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Patriot, the other district in the Occoquan region. Last year, Fairfax, I believe, won the regular season, even though I think West Potomac may have won the district tournament. But Fairfax has their star player coming back, Margod. I'm not going to try his last name, but I understand the football player Tony Rojas is not going to play basketball this year.
Oh, well, you just broke some news to me. So I was wondering, I saw their scrimmage the other day and didn't see him, so I didn't know.
Yeah, well, he's still playing football, but his mother posted on our football group that he's not playing. He has to prepare for football, unfortunately, for Penn State. Unfortunately,
Penn State, yep.
Yeah, but anyway, this is a very well matched conference district for basketball on the boys' side. So what do you see in the Patriot?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you nailed it. I believe Fairfax tied, or maybe South County won the regular season, and then the 5th seed West Potomac won the tournament last year. So that should give you an indication of what goes on in that district. Incredibly deep district, where even the bottom teams, the 7 and 8 seed, have been known to win at regionals. Or, because it's that good a district and it prepares you that well. SoCo is your favorite there, though. SoCo is a legitimate contender to Hayfield at both the regional and state level this year. They're very, very deep and very, very talented there. Very athletic and play some great defense. They're the favorite to both win the regular season and the tournament. But lots of good programs. Alexandria City has some, that's been known, TC, as kind of the sleeping giant. They've got talent. West Potomac, even though they lost Donovan Bass Briscoe, has talent. W.T. Woodson's going to be good this year. Even though they lost a very good senior class, they're going to be good again. Lake Braddock, you just never know. They run their system until, Brian Mitras changes it midseason, maybe. They should be pretty good as well. Very difficult and deep district. And you mentioned Margod Choi Gilshurin. I'm a writer, so I can spell his name. I think I got it. He's one of the best players around. And again, I watched him Saturday. This kid, he's 6'4". He's going to get as much defensive attention as anybody in Northern Virginia, I think. And, I think he's going to be able to handle it too. He's that good.
Yeah. I saw him play a few times last year. I love his game. I have never, most time when I see a player play, I can always compare him to someone else that I've seen, either pro, college, whatever, high school. He's a kid. I have never seen anyone with a game like him. The way his step back jumper, the way he shoots it, his strength, the way he plays. He's got a game all his own. I'm really excited about him. I understand he has an offer from Shepherd, which is a Division II school. So hopefully you'll have that and hopefully some Division I's to choose from. Well, let's go to the girls' side. I know my alma mater and where you used to coach, Robinson, got to the regional final last year. So what do you think about the Patriot girls?
They're favored to do it again, Robinson. And the actual first game we're going to cover this year, I believe, is going to be Robinson versus Virginia Academy, one of those public-private school matchups. I think it's on November 28th. I'm going to go to that game. Robinson has a high-low. They do it old school, actually. I should go back and coach at Robinson now if TJ will have me. I have coached under him. He's great. They have a high low with Caroline Shimp, a senior, and they have what's her gosh, I forgot her name again, the sophomore, the kid who was an amazing freshman last year.
Oh, she was a twin. I believe she was.
Yes, yes, she has an older Simonson, Georgia Simonson, and her older sister Amelia, who is a senior who plays just lockdown defense. That's what they're going to do. They're going to play lockdown defense. They're going to have the high-low with Shimp and Georgia Simonson, and they're going to pound opponents down low. I'm curious to see if that works against Virginia Academy, though, which is a very well-coached program and has a lot of big kids, that they won't see. But on a public school level, Robinson is going to be very tough to beat because – that two good post kids is just a recipe for success around here. Most programs don't have one good post kid these days.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's move to 6D, which is the northern region. Let's start off with the Concorde District. South Lakes, the boys' side. South Lakes won that district last year. I don't know if they won regular season, but they definitely won the tournament, I believe. They returned Jordan Scott, the son of Christy Scott Winters and Jerome Scott, two Division I, really good Division I players themselves. And they have another guy, Aiden Billingsley, who is a tough 6'3" post player, great football player as well. So what do you think about the Concorde?
Well, South Lakes, they lost a very good senior class, though. So I don't know if they're going to have the type of success that they did last year. It's certainly not maybe in the first half of the season, but as you mentioned, they're good. Jordan Scott has turned it up a notch. He's clearly become a better player through AAU or whatever he was doing over the summer. He can shoot. He's 6'5". He's a good player. You mentioned the big kid. Did you see on our Twitter, we retweeted the charge there? Oh, no way I'm doing that. That kid is a tank. He's awesome. He got a little banged up in football season, so we'll see if he's ready to go right away. He looked like he was ready to go right away from that. They're going to be good. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to defend those two alone. And I watched them a lot in Wakefield Fall League when the kids that weren't playing football or doing something else showed up. They've got some depth too. It's just going to take a while. Now, Madison, I saw the other day, Saturday. Madison probably is the favorite in that district on the guys' side. They're well coached. Kevin Roller, one of the best coaches around. I would say they're the favorite. I know Coach Dez at South Lakes would want me to say that as well. The other schools, it's going to be tougher. They're good programs. Centerville lost a lot to transfers. If you're familiar with Doyle Brown, he went to Flint Hill. Tristan Alvarez, I believe, went to Virginia Academy off the top of my head. Yeah, so Centerville's they did get Marcus Gibson, who's a good addition. He transferred from Robinson. Centerville's going to be okay. Kevin Harris, though, is at Westfield. So it may not be this year, but they have some talent as well. They're a good program as well. Chantilly and Oakton there as well, improving, getting more and more talent in. But it looks again this year like it'll probably be between Madison and South Lakes on the boys' side.
Okay. Well, let's go to the girls' side. As you mentioned before, Madison had a senior laden class last year, and they won the state championship. Did Coach Stone, who's great coach, great person, did she get some new players, or is she going to try to build it organically?
Well, I haven't flat out asked her. I have a guy, Max Nagel, who's doing a preview of the Concorde District, and he's going to have a report for me in about a week or about 4 or 5 days. So I'll see when that happens. They're good. Madison is still good. They have some talent. They didn't lose all their talent. I know Sarah Link and some others are back. I'm a big believer, especially in girls basketball, until you knock off the king or queen, they're still the king or queen. And once you develop that winning mentality, they're tough. Now, will they win a state championship? It's going to be very tough, but I think they're definitely a contender in the region, and certainly probably the favorites to win the district until all comes back. But I'll tell you this also, Centerville is looking very good on the girls' side. Oakton has a very strong senior class, and obviously the long tenured Fred Priester running that program. So they're going to be right there. Westfield has 3 kids that can play. Chantilly has some young talent. So I'm missing one school. I'm always missing one. South Lakes.
Yeah,
South Lakes is going to be up there too. Jess Dornack is one of the best post players. That on the girls' side is an ultra competitive, very, very good district, where I think multiple teams are contenders to do some damage in the state tournament. Whoever gets there from, because they can't all get there.
Well, best of luck to Rob Robinson, who's starting off at South Lakes. A great player himself. Had a really nice career at Niagara. He was Grand Hills, one of his chief lieutenants back in the early 90s. And also, I think Freddie Priester has taken his Oakton girls to the Hoosiers gym for a holiday tournament. So that, I guess we'll be able to hopefully get an online feed and be able to watch a little bit of that.
I saw that. I listened to your girls podcast. That was a great podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate that. So, let's go to a 6D Liberty. That is last year, Washington Lee won the boys. I talked to Coach Dobson the other day. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, Braylon, I've lost his last name, Coach. What's Braylon's last name? Mead passed. And I hate to hear that. But on the basketball side, they have a lot of players back. They were very young last year. Definitely the team to beat.
Yeah, I mean, no question in that district, they're the teams to beat. Brian Weiser and James McIntyre are a dynamic guard duo that got them pretty far last year. I believe they lost to South Lakes, and I get them confused because they all play again. Yeah. They lost to South Lakes at one point at South Lakes, gave them a good game. I think they lost to Hayfield at one point in the state.
They lost to Hayfield in the state semi.
Yeah, but they gave him a good game, and they also have a big kid in the mold of Billings, South Lakes kid. His name escapes me.
I think it's Elijah. He's a football signee.
You got it. Yeah. You got it. Yeah. And he's very important to them down low. So in Washington Liberty, clearly in that district where you have some good programs, but are they going to get to the Washington Liberty? I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
this year.
Marshall got to the regional semis last year under Jerry Lim, and I know they have Matthew Leonard coming back, who is a really good soccer player, but also a very good basketball player as well. And they had size last year, but I believe the big guy is going to Tech now. I don't think he's playing basketball. But have you seen Marshall this summer at all?
I have not seen them, but I plan on seeing them if I can very shortly. You nailed it with them. Matthew Leonard is a fantastic player. You could argue because he does, other sports and does so many things well. He's one of the most underrated players in this region. And Jerry Lynn has a reputation. He's just a fantastic coach and a fantastic guy. Yeah. So, I'm not saying Washington Liberty is going to lose the district lead, but Marshall can certainly beat them at Marshall, especially.
Right. So, well, let's go to the girls' side. It was a very competitive district last year with Yorktown and Langley fighting it out, and Coach Baker at Langley took Langley, I believe, to the regional semis. Had a great year. What do you see on the girls' side?
Well, I'm still making up my mind. Big scrimmage I want to watch tomorrow is, I believe, Yorktown is at Alexandria City. I'll be going to that if I can. I want to because I want to look at Yorktown because they're missing their post kid who graduated, and she was a big part of their offense. But my head says that Yorktown is the favorite in that district. They return a lot of talent, and you know, they're used to winning now. Langley lost a fantastic senior class, but they'll be good again shortly. I think they're gonna take their lumps. They may start a freshman point guard this year, who's gonna be good.
Yeah.
It might be a while before they get, but they have talent. And with Coach Baker, as you mentioned, one of the best coaches in the region, wouldn't surprise me if they play above their heads even early. Herndon's another team I want to watch with Coach Mike out there. They returned some good juniors from last year, now seniors. I think they may be a threat. I'm not sure at this point, but I think they have the potential to be a threat. I think it's going to be a little bit more wide open on the boys' side, even though I'm suspecting Yorktown's the favorite. I know Marshall has some good young talent too. Might be another year before they can be a contender, but that's the district I'm not quite sure about yet. I got to watch some scrimmages.
Yeah. Well, that's a great start. Well, let's go to Prince William County, and I guess there's some six C schools in Southern Loudoun, and maybe one or two in North Stafford, the north part of Stafford County. But last year, obviously, Patriot had a phenomenal year. They were undefeated until the state semifinals, and unfortunately, the way they seed these things, they had to keep beating Battlefield, and Battlefield got the last laugh. That's the rival. I think they're probably 5 or 6 miles apart, or not that far apart. Do you see that being a big game again this year?
Yeah, it definitely is. Will they play 5 times like they did last year? I don't think so, but maybe. Battlefield, really tasted the good life, making it to Siegel Center last year. They couldn't take care of Hayfield. But they're good. They returned a lot of talent. They're going to be ranked highly in our poll, as is Patriot. I mean, Patriots lost senior class after senior class, and we've kind of underranked them a little bit because we thought it would take some time for them to get back to where they were. Man, Coach Rivers just has that program loaded. This year they lost. They lost another good senior class, but it wasn't as big as some of the other senior classes they've lost recently. They're a state contender, and Sherman Rivers was at Media Day. They had a Prince William Media Day last weekend or a week and a half ago. He's had an unbelievable schedule, and he's gotten some of these Virginia Beach teams, these powerful Class 5 beach teams that come up to Northern Virginia. So they're going to be battle tested and ready. I mean, they lost one game. Talk about high standards. Their goal is to go undefeated and win the state championship, and they're a legit contender to, I believe, Hayfield and South County and some of these others.
Yeah, Coach Bills from Battlefield and Coach Rivers are two great personalities. It's going to be fun watching them square off for the next, hopefully, 5 or 10 years. Let's go to the other part, more of the eastern part of Prince William County. I believe it's a Commonwealth district, but I can get these things confused. But I know last year, I know Hilton was good. I know Potomac had the very late transfer from Bishop Ireton, Jalen, I forgot his last name.
Harris, yep.
Jaden Harris, like 6'7" kid with a great range. What about the eastern part of Prince William?
Well, that district, it's actually, I'm unsure of their ability, that district, to contend for a state title and go deep in the states, but it's a very good district, and it's one of these districts that is deep with talent. We talked about it at Prince William Media Day. Freedom looks to be good. They're highly guard oriented, and they're, as you know, they're doing well in football. So
they're doing
might be a while before they get a couple post players, but they have some fantastic guards. Like I said, on the girls' side, though, until you dethrone the king, you haven't dethroned the king. Potomac is going to be good. TJ Bethea and Harris, as you named, these guys are 6'5" plus wings that are very versatile. And that's a hell of a foundation to begin. When you have those guys. They lost a lot too, but as you know, Potomac is always good. Woodbridge, has a decent amount of talent, even though they lost a very good senior class. Dylan Simmons down there is a fantastic guard. Colgan They play defense. They have some talent as well. It's going to be a fun district. On the boys' side, that's one of the districts I'm really eager to see. Hilton again, they lost their two big guys, but they have talent as well. So I'm really interested to get down there and see some games this year.
Yeah. Shout out to my boy Barry Smith, Hilton. He's a great guy. So we didn't talk about one of the Loudoun teams in the eastern part of Prince William. That conference is Champ, and I understand Champ might be strong this year because I think they got a transfer that I heard is really solid.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, you're missing, you know, I know they lost Cade Sebastian was a shooter. He went to DeMatha.
Wow.
And again, these transfers drive me crazy because I can't keep track of them.
But yeah, he's driving to DeMatha. He's driving to DeMatha every day.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, for all I know, they live up there now. I have no idea. I mean, I hate driving to DeMatha. I went there and I saw DeMatha Hayfield for a summer league game, which was well worth it. But I got, you know, one of those camera speeding tickets on the way and all that stuff. Yeah. So I hope he's not driving up there. I hope they're up there now. But anyway, that's a big loss. He's a good shooter. But yeah, I'll have to look into it. I just saw their roster, I think this weekend. I looked over it. They have some very good young talent as well. A few freshmen made the roster that I know are good that I saw in middle school. They have talent. Are they able to put it together this year to be a state contender? I'm not sure. I got to learn more about them, but they're definitely a program to watch.
Did you hear about this old legend named Mike Harris is coaching again? He coached at Lewis and Lee back in the 90s. He won all these games, scored a lot of points. I think he might be coaching at Colonial Forge or one of the schools in Stafford. Did you hear that news?
No, I didn't. It was very hard to keep track of the coaches this year as well. Yeah. There was a lot of turnover,
especially Prince William County.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I still don't know one or two coaches yet. I haven't made contact with them yet. I always make contact with them at some point during the season, but I got to admit, I don't even know a few of them.
Well, if you'll enjoy Harris, he is a character. I mean, he's one of a kind. If you've never saw him coach, I used to officiate his games.
Oh, okay.
And I did a podcast with him, and that was the first time he was ever nice to me. So that's the nice part about doing podcasts. So so what about on the girls' side? Talking about legend, we have Chrissy Kelly, whose Osborne Park team went all the way to the state final and gave Madison all they can handle in the final. What do you see on the girls' side in Prince William County?
Well, not again to betray our rankings.
That's right. Yeah.
Osborne Park, I would say is, and this is to be determined, not that it's set in stone, our preseason rankings, they're probably the favorite in my mind for a Class 6 state title this year. Oh, wow. They have a big loss. They lost Haley Kellogg, their do everything guard, who's a fantastic player. However, they return most of their rotation, if not all, other than her. And they got 6 freshmen on the roster. And if you're a freshman on Chrissy Kelly's squad, you can play basketball. Wow. That's one of the things I wanted to find out. They scrimmaged Madison recently, and I want to know how that went. Yeah. But yeah, they're loaded, and it starts right there. They're in a good district though. Patriot has got a good team. Do you know Brian Banks?
I don't know Brian.
He's up at George Mason. He's a good guy. His daughter is a senior there, and you got Sydney Smith there, another senior. They're a very senior-oriented team. Patriot's going to be good. Brentsville District has Alden Yergi. Now, they're Class 3, so, people sleep on them a little bit. Alden Yergi is going to Siena on scholarship, a D1 scholarship. She's a fantastic player in Prince William. Oh, wow. Let's see. Prince William.
How about the eastern part of the county?
Well, it's going to be a little bit down this year. They lost some fantastic talent the last couple of years. I know Alyssa Andrews a couple of years ago at Colgan. She's at Virginia Tech, I believe. Angel Jones of Forest Park. They lost her. I thought the best player, she should have gotten way more D1 looks. Although she's not a big kid, she ended up at Siena, where Alden Yergi's going to go. She's fantastic, but obviously, it's going to take a while when you lose talent like that. Woodbridge lost Amani Melendez, who is she as a freshman at Bridgeport just last week scored 26 points.
Wow.
She's
Amazing.
fantastic. So there was a lot of talent lost, but it's gonna come back up. And the bottom teams of that who have traditionally like Garfield and Hilton and Freedom Woodbridge, I think they're gonna get better. So I'm from a girl standpoint, I'm really excited about that district. It's going to take some time to replenish all the talent they lost because they lost a lot of fantastic talent last year.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, let's go to Loudoun County. Most
Mhm.
of the schools there are class 5. And the boys' side, I know that Loudoun County got all the way to the state, I believe, semis last year. I think is Jacob West. I forgot his name. I played football with his dad growing up, so I keep up with him. But I know that they're probably good. What are you seeing in Loudoun County?
Yeah, Loudoun County, they're a tough team to rank because they're down at the class 4.
Other class 4.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So but you're right. Most of Loudoun County is class 5. And they end up playing a lot of times when they get to states, they'll play the Richmond and the beach teams, which is a very tough task.
Yeah.
Like last year, Loudoun County made it to the state final and Varina of Richmond beat them by a decent amount. But Loudoun County had a fantastic season. Loudoun County is a fantastic, well-coached team. Mark Alexander there. His son is a senior there, I believe. And they retain a lot of talent. So they're going to be good. It's hard to say how good. I'm not sure. They're certainly one of the favorites in that district. I would mention also Tuscarora. We're looking at really hard on the guys' side. Also class 4, got a transfer, I believe, from Loudoun Valley. I believe Jaden Johnson's playing there. I'm not positive. I haven't seen the rosters. He's a real good guard from Loudoun Valley. Tuscarora might be very good. We're looking at that now. The class 5 teams, it's Stonebridge with that won a state title a couple of years ago. Like we said, it's a hard task to beat the Beach and Richmond teams. On the guys' side, it's going to be a very competitive district, but a lot of talent was lost out of that district as well. On the Stonebridge side, and with football, Jacob Thomas and Dylan Huntermark and all those guys, they're gone. They were the football and basketball standouts. So there was a lot of talent lost, but that district is really deep. You've got Coach Hawes at Potomac Falls they play fantastic defense, some of the best in the Northern Virginia region. They're going to be good. My old boss at Robinson, Brian Nelson, I believe, is at Independence. He's a fantastic coach. Woodgrove has a fantastic new coach who was at South Lakes, and they're getting better. So, that's been one of the districts I've been excited to watch. Loudoun County is very strange. It's hard to quantify. And this is a complaint we have every year. Loudoun County plays in itself most of the time. Their out of district games are usually against themselves. So we have a hard time assessing them sometimes, but
Loudoun County has a very interesting history because, when I was growing up, and I think you probably weren't here yet, they were all double. Back then, we just had 3 classifications. They were always AA, whereas all the Fairfax County, Arlington, Alexandria teams were always AAA, Prince William as well. So there was no interchange between Loudoun County and Fairfax County for many, many years. And it was very rural county. So they're very much to themselves. So it's interesting how the county has grown. Their sports teams are great because they have easier transfer rules than some of the other counties, such as why they have such great football teams. Because, if you can find your way to Stonebridge, and I think if you get there before your 9th grade year, it doesn't matter where you live. So they have things that make their sports teams, incredibly competitive now. But anyways, let's go to the girls' side. I know you mentioned Woodgrove. They got to the state final last year, and I believe they had an injury in that game in the semifinals that may have kept them from winning the state title.
Well, they did. Yeah. The Ashley Stedman was her name. She's graduated now, but she's the school's all-time leading scorer. And yeah, that was a tough loss. They were going to, I can't even remember the beach team. There are three really, usually it's Princess Anne there, but some team beat Princess Anne and then another team beat that team. So there, that to show you the quality, Princess Anne won something like 8 straight state titles or whatever they did. They had to go up in that championship game against, God, was it Maury? I can't even remember the
I
team.
can't remember either. I was
Yeah.
there, but
No, I know. I was there. I couldn't tell you. I'll remember as soon as we get off the air,
exactly.
obviously.
Yeah.
But they were playing without her, and they didn't have much of a chance without her. Had a fantastic year. But this year, as I mentioned, they lost their point guard Sadie Shores to Paul VI, and also the death of Colette Bain, which she was a very good player as well. It'll be interesting to see the team rally together and play. They're going to still be a tough out though. Yeah, Derek Fisher is the coach there. He's been around for a long, long time. I remember him coaching in the 90s.
Wow.
And I think Lake Braddock. He's a fantastic coach. And they still have a lot of talent out there. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. They're going to face a spirited challenge from Briar Woods, who has a lot coming back. Hope Drake is one of the best shooters in Northern Virginia. She leads that squad, and I think they have about 9 returnees coming back. So that's the highlight there of the that district. That's the Class 5 district. Class 4 district is going to be good too out in Loudoun. Sorry if I'm overstepping here.
No, keep going.
Yeah.
This is great.
With Tuscarora is going to be very good. Loudoun Valley is always good. Broad Run did some really nice things this year. Last year, excuse me. They're going to be good again. And you're just starting to see more girls' talent in Loudoun. Riverside is going to be good. They have a lot of young talent there. Stonebridge, Potomac Falls, those are all good programs. You're starting to see a lot of depth, and you can see it in the college scholarships this year on the girls' side. A lot of girls are starting to play out there. So
yeah. Well, let's great. Let's go to the private schools,
mm-hmm.
and we could just touch on some of the top schools. Obviously, on the boys' side, you've mentioned Paul VI. You've mentioned a little bit about Flint Hill. I'm sure O'Connell is going to be tough. So, is there any real change to the hierarchy on the boys' side?
Well, we're always looking to knock Paul VI out of our rankings at number 1. We love doing it. We did it, I think, once with Loudoun Valley when they won with Jordan Miller. I think we had Loudoun Valley beat the team that lost to Paul VI or something like that. But the reality situation is they have the best boys and girls program. Both are going to, again, be nationally ranked this year, and the other services. They're the leaders. Hierarchy-wise, you have Fairfax Christian on the boys' side. They're getting a lot of talent. They got in Eli Adij Benro. I hope I did pronounce that okay. From Potomac Falls. They have some talent. They have some kids that can play. They're making moves on the boys' side. They're scrimmaging all the major players and playing all the major players this year, Flint Hill and them. Flint Hill, we have on the boys' side a preview up on our website. Flint Hill girls have a new coach, the Chantilly assistant, who's replacing Jody Patrick out there. They're going to be good. Episcopal, but on the girls' side, one to watch is the Potomac School. They have a lot of talent out there this year, a lot of young talent. They're going to be fun to watch. I imagine they'll be ranked in our Nova 19, but I don't know yet. But yeah, it's pretty much the same old thing. You've got Bethel Academy, a new school that's especially on, I guess, the guys' side that could make some noise, but it's the same old ball game. I think, it's just when, teams like Bishop Ireton on the guys' side, they lost Jamie Kaiser, who led the league in scoring. He's going to the University of Maryland. He was at Lake Braddock. Then he went to Bishop Ireton. Now he's at IMG Academy down in Florida. But, I'm going to try to get in to see them. I think they're tonight for a scrimmage. I'm going to try to pop in at that. you know, they're going to have kids that can play. It's just, you know, it's a matter of just this whole region is so deep, you know, it's just, there's no shortage of talent.
Yeah. Well, look, Chris, this has been great. You know, I want to thank you for what you do. You really make the basketball season more exciting. You know, the kids can't wait to look the next morning, actually, when they get home, to see if they're on your website. You keep us all informed as to what's going on. So, I mean, it's just great that we have you to do the things that you do. And I really appreciate you coming to talk to me. Hopefully, we'll do this again. Maybe we can do this before the postseason. You can, we can go back and look at how you did, and then we can get you.
It's poorly. I can tell you right now. We always underestimated like 2 or 3 teams, but
well, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? That there's going to be some young players that there's no way we could have known about, and they're going to be freshmen or sophomores that are they're going to make an impact, and then it's going to make the postseason even that much more compelling.
So. It's just so much fun. I love doing it. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I love talking hoops anytime.
Yeah, well, that's great, Chris. And look, have a great day, and let's keep in touch.
All right, will do.
Okay, buddy. Take care now.
Yes, sir.